In a remote village in sub-Saharan Africa, where the sun scorched the earth and the air shimmered with heat, a single vial of vaccine sparkled like hope itself. Children, their faces dusted with red clay, lined up under a baobab tree, their laughter mingling with the hum of a generator powering a makeshift clinic. No one knew that the man behind this moment was Bill Gates, not the tech titan, not the billionaire, but a quiet force who had poured his fortune into a dream to save millions of lives. For years, he worked in the shadows, his name absent from the headlines, his efforts hidden in spreadsheets and late-night meetings. But when the truth of his silent promise broke through, it shook the world, proving that one person's resolve could rewrite the future for millions. The year was 2025, and the world was still grappling with the scars of pandemics past. In the bustling offices of Seattle, Bill Gates sat in a glass-walled conference room, the hum of air conditioning a faint backdrop to the clatter of keyboards and the murmur of his foundation's team. The room smelled of fresh coffee and ink, the walls lined with maps dotted with red pins, each marking a village where children died from preventable diseases. Malaria, measles, polio, names that carried the weight of history, diseases that should have been relics but still stole breaths in places the world rarely saw. Gates, his glasses catching the light, pored over a report, his brow furrowed. The numbers were grim. Millions of children in low-income countries lacked access to vaccines, their lives hanging by a thread of chance. It wasn't a new fight for him. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation had long been a beacon in global health, but this was personal. Years ago, during a trip to a rural clinic in Malawi, he met a mother named Amina. Her eyes, heavy with grief, haunted him still. She'd lost 2 children to measles, her voice breaking as she whispered, "If only we'd had the medicine." That moment had lodged in his chest like a splinter, driving him to act. He'd returned to Seattle with a fire in his gut, a vow to ensure no mother would face that pain again. But the path was fraught. Vaccines were expensive, supply chains fragile, and global attention fickle. The story began in earnest when a new strain of malaria emerged in sub-Saharan Africa, resistant to existing treatments. The news hit Gates like a punch. He was in his office, the Seattle skyline a gray smear through the rain-streaked window, when a scientist from his foundation burst in. "It's spreading fast," Dr. Elena Martinez said, her voice tight. "We need a vaccine yesterday." The room fell silent, the weight of her words sinking in. Developing a vaccine was a gamble, years of research, billions in funding, and no guarantee of success. Critics would call it reckless, a drain on resources. But Gates didn't hesitate. "Do it," he said, his voice steady. "Whatever it takes." The conflict was immediate. The Foundation's board was skeptical, their voices sharp in a late-night meeting. "We're stretched thin already," one director argued, his tie loosened, his face etched with worry. "This could bankrupt us if it fails," another chimed in. "The optics are bad, Bill. People will say you're playing God." Outside, the rain battered the windows, a relentless drumbeat. Gates leaned back, his fingers steepled, his mind racing. He thought of Amina, of the children whose names he'd never know. "If we don't try," he said quietly, "we're failing them already." His words silenced the room, not with force, but with conviction. The development was a grueling odyssey. Gates threw himself into the project, his days a blur of calls with scientists, negotiations with pharmaceutical companies, and sleepless nights poring over trial data. His office became a war room, its walls papered with charts and timelines, the air thick with the scent of dry erase markers and takeout. He pushed his team to innovate: new mRNA technology, cold chain solutions for remote areas, partnerships with local governments. He was relentless, his questions sharp. Why can't we cut the timeline by 6 months? What's stopping us from scaling now? His team, exhausted but inspired, matched his pace. Dr. Martinez, her eyes bloodshot from late nights, became his right hand, her passion for the cause mirroring his own. In the field, the stakes were visceral. In a village in northern Uganda, the malaria strain was devastating. The clinic was a cinder-block building, its roof leaking, its shelves nearly empty. Nurses worked by lantern light, their hands steady despite the chaos. Gates visited under the radar, his plane landing on a dusty airstrip at dawn. The air smelled of wet earth and eucalyptus, the horizon glowing orange as the sun rose. He met a boy named Kofi, no older than 7, his body frail from fever. "Will I be okay?" Kofi asked, his voice barely a whisper. Gates knelt beside him, his throat tight. "We're working on it," he said, his hand resting lightly on the boy's shoulder. That night, back in his hotel, he didn't sleep. Kofi's face was all he could see. The breakthrough came after 2 years of relentless effort. In a lab in Geneva, scientists cheered as trial results confirmed the vaccine's efficacy: 95% protection against the new strain. Gates was on a video call when the news broke, his face unreadable for a moment before a rare smile cracked through. "Good," he said simply, but his voice carried the weight of 1,000 sleepless nights. The real challenge was distribution. He funneled billions into production, partnering with manufacturers in India and Brazil to scale up. He worked with local leaders to build trust, ensuring vaccines reached the most remote corners. Drones buzzed over jungles, delivering doses to villages where roads didn't exist. Refrigerated trucks rumbled through deserts, their cargo a lifeline. The climax unfolded in that same Ugandan village. The baobab tree stood sentinel, its gnarled branches casting shade over a line of children, their laughter a fragile melody against the hum of a generator. Nurses administered the vaccine, their hands swift and sure. Gates was there, unnoticed in a plain shirt, watching from the edge of the crowd. Amina, the mother he'd met years ago, was among them, her daughter clutching her hand. "Is it true?" she asked a nurse, her voice trembling. "Will this save her?" The nurse nodded, and Amina's face crumpled, tears carving tracks through the dust on her cheeks. Gates turned away, his own eyes stinging, and slipped back to his car. He didn't need to stay, the moment wasn't his. The truth emerged slowly, pieced together by journalists and aid workers. A report on X detailed the Foundation's role, naming Gates as the driving force. Posts spread, videos of vaccinated children laughing under that baobab tree going viral. The world took notice, not just of the vaccine, but of the man who'd made it happen. In Seattle, Gates sat in his office, the same maps on the walls, now dotted with green pins for every village reached. He didn't read the headlines, didn't watch the videos. But when Dr. Martinez handed him a photo of Kofi, healthy and smiling, he paused, his fingers tracing the boy's face. "Worth it," he said softly. The resolution came in a quiet ceremony in Geneva, where global health leaders gathered to honor the achievement. Millions of lives saved, millions more protected. Amina was there, flown in by the foundation, her voice steady as she spoke. "You gave us more than medicine," she said, addressing the room but looking at Gates. "You gave us hope." The applause was deafening, but Gates stood at the back, his hands in his pockets, his expression unreadable. He didn't need the spotlight, the work was enough. As the world celebrated, the story of the silent promise lingered, a testament to what one person can do. Bill Gates, a man whose wealth could have bought him anything, chose to buy time for children he'd never meet. His true impact wasn't in the dollars spent or the headlines earned, but in the lives changed. Lives like Kofi's, like Amina's daughters. True leadership isn't measured by wealth or fame, but by the quiet resolve to make the world better, one life at a time. In the villages where vaccines now flowed, Gates' name was a whisper of gratitude, proof that real change happens not in the spotlight, but in the shadows where hope is born.